All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Practical Wealth Show. So we have a cool episode today where we're going to, our show is about money, but this is going to be a fun episode. And we have a coach, a certified mental fitness coach. I'm going to tell you a little about Shana James. And so we met because she had me on her show, right? And she's got a fascinating podcast. So we went there where she talks about relationship, money, and sex. We started to call this show Sex and Money. We still may, but we're gonna go. So this is gonna be fun. We're gonna talk about. So let me tell you a little about Shana, and then I'm gonna have her tell her what I didn't tell you, and then we're gonna have some fun and talk about enjoying your life. I'm actually gonna read you one of her testimonials off her site that I think that will be applicable to what we're doing here. So she has coached thousands of leaders, CEOs, authors, speakers, people with big visions to step into more powerful leadership, start and grow more effective teams, increase impact, get promoted, find love, right? Rekindle the spark, create legacy, and become more personally inspired and fulfilled. Okay. And so she's referred to by a lot of these leaders as her secret weapon. She's certified in DISC coaching training. She facilitates groups. So when you hear her, some of y'all should be hiring her to come speak to your group, right? Also, but here's from Michael. Let me give you a testimonial. And I finished my book. I doubled my share. He already had a 7-figure income. Now she was coaching double my 7-figure income, and he got engaged. Okay. And so someone's going to read this whole thing, right? Because you'll kind of see if where she's at here. So with Shana's help, after almost 10 years of not dating, I attracted, this is for y'all single guys, right? But there's some married stuff in here too. I attracted an amazing woman, right? What does Jim Rohn says? Success is something you attract by the person you become, not chase, right? I'm now engaged. Not only is our relationship more meaningful, passionate than ever that I've ever experienced, I love being an example of a healthy relationship for my daughters. Okay. Working with Shana reorganized my life to finish and publish the book I've been writing for 5 years, 4 Days to Change, Radical Habits to Overcome Bias and Thrive in a Diverse Game of Commercial, Diverse in the World. I'm committed to delegating the word. I don't want to say it. All right. So basically her coaching changed his life. And so we're going to talk about business,
sex and money,
sex, money, whatever comes to our little minds as we do this. So Shana, welcome to the Practical Wealth Show. I'm excited to talk to you.
Thank you. Well, I love, as you start talking about wealth, I was thinking, right. And you speak about how wealth is not only finances. Mm-hmm. Wealth is our health. Wealth is our relationships. Wealth is, our intimacy and sex life. And so that struck me as you said the word wealth, and then thinking about the testimonial you just read, right? It's all connected. If we are not feeling clear or confident or relaxed, or, if we're really stressed out, then money doesn't flow as well. Sex doesn't flow as well.
Right.
So there are a lot of overlaps, I think, in what we do, including that you look at the norm that's out there, the way people are taught to invest, and you say, this is not for you, right? This is for the banks.
You do the opposite of this, right?
Yeah. And so, and I do that too with whether you're dating or in a romantic relationship, whatever gender you are. It's like, do not look at the rules and the games and the lines and try to emulate someone else. You've got to find your way, right? That really works for you.
So let's talk about how you do that. One of the things I always tell people is, this is a joke before we talk. I'll talk to, so like I've coached these young guys I'm teaching about money, and I'll say, listen, if you chase the money or success or stay focused and have a plan, I always tell them the women will chase you. Right. So you don't have to go running around over the place.
You go chase the money, success.
You go chase the money, because what happens is,
and then women will be drawn to you.
Yeah. Drawn. So I said, yeah, chase you, but drawn to you because of stability, of a person with a plan, of a person going. And so now you just have to be clear on what you want, and having like what I call sorting, 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 sort, of good from the bad, because you'll have choices And you have to be careful who you get engaged with. So you need to kind of interview.
Yes. Yes.
I learned that for a long time ago as a teenager. It's like, okay, it's like so I would talk and like just kind of I want to see the parents. I want to see their thought process, how they think about. That was
Good
more
for you.
interesting
Wow,
than
you were smart even back
I
then.
was I was like, I don't know about in
You were an old
college, but I
soul.
would say like mid-20s, I started to figure that out.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, right. I agree with you that if you, on the one hand, let's say you put attention on creating wealth, creating success, and let's include creating a life you love, right? A
Yes.
wealthy life, an abundant life in that
Yep.
way that you're
Mm-hmm.
inspired about, it's meaningful for you, then you're definitely more likely to attract women. That said, I think there are also ways that people can lean into, oh, look, I've got a career, I'm making money, I'm successful, and then not be willing to really be present or connected or intimate. And so it's one thing for someone to be attracted to you because you
Right.
have a great lifestyle. It's another
Right.
thing to then sustain that and really create a connection with someone.
Well, let me tell you, being present is hard.
Yes.
As an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And that's a thing because you could be successful, but you're always working, or even if you're not working, you're thinking about working.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that sometimes because I've got to learn how to, you never really cut it
Does your
off.
wife say to you like, "Oh, honey, put it down. Come on, come back."
No, she knows better to do that. But because I try to do stuff, but they don't, well, they may know I'm not I'm present, but I think about it. But I try to, do a lot of stuff. We like to travel and that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
I want to be more present.
Yeah.
And which goes back to some of the financial stuff, some of the business structuring stuff, so that you can be present. I think that's the hardest thing.
Right. Organizing and orienting your life to create presence.
So how
everywhere.
do you help people be because see, if you're not present, or if you're not making your partner like the number one
Feel
priority,
special,
special, and doing those little things.
Yeah.
Because you all listen. I don't care if you're married. I don't care if you're 60. You still, I have daughters, right? So I said, boys only want one thing, right? So you make more. You buying Porsches, you buying cars. Why? So you can show off for the opposite sex. That never changes. All right. And so, okay, but there's more to it than that. But that's why you want to be. That's what you work for. And that's not front out there, guys. And but hopefully I'll give you some content to play
okay,
with.
so the question of how do you be more present?
How do you be? Let's stay on that. So you coach guys, I can think with people may get caught up in their thing. And so how do you, some of the things that you coach them on present, or how this guy find an amazing mate, and all that good stuff?
Well, one of the things that I would imagine, it helps in all aspects. I would think, in wealth as well, is to be able to master your attention. And so when you're mastering your attention, right, you want to be choosing where your attention goes. So if you're drifting off into, future thinking about work, or kind of digesting something that happened, and you're not figuring out how you can come back to this moment right here, right now, with the people in front of you, with the tasks in front of you, right? Then people are not going to feel as excited to be around you. You're going to feel more stressed. You're going to feel more spun out. And so, one of the things I help men do, I do this with women too, but mostly I've been working with men for the past many years around this, is first of all, to actually become more aware of their body. And I do find that people who are more embodied, and I don't just mean athletic, that means like, oh, you're aware of what's happening in your body. You have that, that gut feeling, when that happens. It's funny. I was trying to look at furniture this morning because I just moved, and I looked at this dresser, and my friend was like, "Do you like it?" And I was like, my body is not having a great reaction to it. Like my body feels just kind of heavy and flat. And she was like, your body to the dresser? And I was like, yeah, we walk around, many of us, as very mental beings.
Mm-hmm.
And we weren't taught like, oh, our bodies have a response system as well.
Okay.
And so I'm curious for you, like when you make financial decisions, does it feel like it's all a mental thing? Or are there other places that you notice that you make decisions from?
Well, I think that decisions come from really your gut, right? So
Mhm.
it's really and a lot of people aren't in tune with their bodies, and
Right.
they work against themselves. Like they know, like my philosophy is when in doubt, don't. Right.
Yeah.
So I've learned to listen to that little voice.
You listen to that gut,
Live
right?
that
So
life.
now think, right,
Yeah.
that works with money and that also works with sex, right? We
Mm-hmm.
often have and sex and intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
We often have that sense of like, no, I don't think this is going to go very well. Or we might be in the middle of some sexual experience and have that gut feeling of like, something's not quite right here, or that person I'm with just, she or he is looking at me, but they're kind of not really there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then do we actually speak up about it? So when you're present and when you're noticing and paying attention and when you're attuning to other people or to your finances, right? We get these messages, we get these communications from
Mm-hmm.
other parts of ourselves. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's a learning, okay, how do I say that in a way that brings someone closer to me rather than pushes them away?
Oh, men have a hard problem with that.
We all do.
Okay, but not in the
Maybe men
so
could be a little more clunky sometimes than
yes,
women, but women
yes.
have their own ways of pushing people away too.
So how can we be less clunky?
Yeah.
In our or more what's the word? Elegant in our
More elegant. I
elegance
like that.
in
I
our
mean, right. And think about this, whether you're in a leadership meeting or a
mhm,
team meeting or a financial meeting or a relationship experience, right? Like you can communicate in ways that are rough and that turn people off, or you can
mhm,
communicate in ways that turn people on. And so being less clunky to me is checking out to see, okay, if there's someone else involved here,
mhm,
how can I see their positive intention? Right? How can I see, oh, they were going for some, even if they didn't hit the mark, they were going for something, right? Whether someone's making a financial decision for me or touching my body in a certain way,
mhm.
I can come down and be like, oh, I don't like that, or that doesn't work for me, or I can be snarky, or I can be passive aggressive, or I can be grateful, right? Oh, somebody's putting their attention on me. Someone's trying to help me. It's not exactly working, but then I could make a request like, hey, thank you for X.
Mm-hmm.
And could we try? Or would you be willing? Or how about we, right?
See,
Like,
that would be helpful, right?
yeah,
We like requests, okay?
yeah,
Because we don't
yeah,
read minds about anything, right? So it's
right.
like, look, don't assume I know this
And that the assume just came to me
of
too. Like
anything, really. Don't
one,
assume I know
yeah,
anything. Yeah.
yeah. And one of my favorite lessons of all time that will serve in every single relationship you have is to assume the best
Mm-hmm.
and then get curious.
Hmm.
Right. So it's kind of like what I just said, instead of nagging or complaining or just being like, ugh, blah, 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 like the opposite, that side, like that saying, like the opposite side of a coin, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like desires on one side, complaints on the other. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're complaining about something, you also have a desire, and way better to bring the desire than it goes better, right? Than to bring the complaint.
For sure. For sure. Interesting. Okay. And I think that because if you're unhappy or unfulfilled,
Yeah.
you don't work right. Like you don't feel successful. You might have
Yeah.
monetary success, but there's a hole
Right.
in your life
Yeah.
and you don't know how to fill it. So you work harder,
Yeah.
or you do what you some people to fill that hole, they have bad habits, that
Right.
they do.
Yeah.
And to fulfill that void that they have because they can't communicate, don't a lot of stuff that you're teaching. So there'll
Yeah.
be like the guy that was in the thing, he was making $1 million, right?
Right.
And then which is, by most people's standards, he's very successful,
Yeah.
but he felt he wasn't completely successful and then you helped him kind of, now he's
Right.
happy, got a mates, got a more intimacy, all that kind of stuff. And I think that that's
Yeah.
there's you have to think
It's
through
much more
that.
well-rounded, right? Like we can
Yes.
think, oh, if I'm having all the sex I want, I would be happier. If I have all the money I want, I would be happy. Or, right. But if we don't actually have the balance, like you talk about,
Mm-hmm.
then usually we feel a kind of lack.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, I was just
No,
going to say,
go ahead,
right.
go ahead. No, no.
Then the question is, okay, if I'm feeling lack, whether it's money, sex, or anything else, what do I do about it? Right. Some people get kind of mopey and hopeless and or afraid, and other people feel like, hopeful and
Mm-hmm.
positive. And I tend to oscillate between both.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but again, if I go back to choice and mastering my attention, when I fall into a hopeless or mopey state or afraid that something's never going to happen that I really want to happen, I have to remember, oh, the future hasn't happened yet. I have
Mm-hmm.
no idea what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I think something couldn't happen, because usually it's not crazy, I would like world peace, but that's not like what I'm dreaming about on a daily basis for myself, right? It's usually, okay, I want to buy a house, or I want to have a relationship, or I want to have more sex, or I want to have kids, or right, whatever it may be. When we master our attention, we can start to notice, or more money, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we
Mm-hmm.
master our attention, we can start to notice, oh, I'm going down the rabbit hole of hopelessness or despair. I'm going down the rabbit hole of scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
So what do I need to do right now to shift into possibility and shift into abundance and shift into, and so I don't necessarily use a lot of like affirmations. I believe actually that we have all these different parts. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's a part that is young and scared, and that we can start to call on other parts in ourselves that are actually more mature and have more of a, less black and white thinking,
Mm-hmm.
more nuanced thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can call on those, whether we're making our money decisions or our relationship decisions.
The how do you what am I thinking about? So my head's racing. So let me go back to this to help me formulate my thought process.
Okay.
So one of the things I talk about is I don't get into it sometimes that much, but the if like on the show, but if you get around me or on some of my like more of my coaching calls, we talk about overall balance, which is physical fitness,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can't, because no use of being rich and bad health, right?
Right.
Financial freedom or financial independence. We both are big proponents of freedom.
Yep.
That's a big driver for me. I don't.
Yeah.
I want to do what I want when I want. Okay.
Yeah.
Spiritual fulfillment
Mm-hmm.
and a relationship with your creator, and mental stability. Okay. Yeah. And so though, and so to me, you need to set goals and work at that, your relationship capital with other people, with the, I think you have to work at that. Like I'm looking at that. I'm like, all right, is it doing date night? Is it, am I present?
I love that. Yeah. I love the way you just phrased that, relationship capital.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go. I mean, right. That there is relationship capital. There is, like, we think of money as only, the green or the card or the whatever.
Right.
But the capital that we put into our relationships is really important.
So, because you have to invest time,
yes,
attention, and focus.
Yes.
And I don't think people know, like I just said that. What does that mean? How do you do that? Like there's, I always like the Simon Sinek book, Start With Why. So it's why, then how. The how is the mechanism.
Yeah.
And then the what, right? What do you do?
Right.
Or what,
okay. So think about this. People who work with you create financial goals, right? Most people who work with me start to create relationship goals. And most couples, I don't think, do you sit down at the beginning of a year and think about goals for your relationship with your wife?
Yes, I do. We really should do it together, but
great. You do. You think about it on your own. Yeah. Okay. So, but a lot of people, I would say, don't do either one. Don't think about their relationship goals.
Not at all.
Don't do it together.
They just live.
Right?
Yeah,
they just live. Yeah, and it's like, oh, we commit to each other. We get married. We make these commitments or these vows. and then that's it. And so when people end up working with me, either they're single, having been divorced and they're starting over, or they're unhappy in their relationship for some reason, it's like, okay, we go back to the why. Why are you in this relationship in the first place?
Right.
And for most people, it's like, I don't know, that's just what you do. You find someone, you fall in love, you want to have family, you want to have kids, you want to have a home. So we really start to get into, and I imagine you might do this with money,
but
like,
they
okay,
fall out of love or what,
yeah,
not, and you really, because they watch too much TV, right?
Yeah, that's okay.
And it's work. One time I was talking to these young guys, and we were playing ball, and they were making fun of me because I'm like 40-ish. I could still run up and down the court, but they're like 27, 28. So they're talking trash. And so we're at LA Fitness. I'm looking over and I see these
They're
cute
calling
girls
you
on
old
the
man.
right. And so now the old man is seeing these workout girls over. I just happen to be looking over. He's calling me looking longer. I was like, yo, aren't you married? I said, yeah. You look at my ring. I says, yeah. But I says, what did I tell him? I says, you can read the menu, but you just can't order. Right. And I said, listen, you've got to decide that I told her I love my wife, but I don't like her all the time. Right. Yeah. But those are little things. You have to be committed that, we want to have a great life. You got to you got to have you do have to have goals, and you have to work at it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I think about that. But I want, so think from that framework, what am I missing? And how can I get better? Like always, how can I be better?
Yeah. I mean,
so I don't want sex. No,
I don't exactly. Well, the more present you are, the more in the moment you are, the more attuned you are to what's happening in the moment, the more sex you're going to have. And I would venture to guess the more money you're going to have, right? Because you're paying attention. If you're in a business meeting and a client is starting to be, they're just wiggling a little bit, and you're like, the more present you are to be able to pay attention to that and speak to that in a way that creates more connection, the more they're going to trust you. So, what was the question you asked before? Like,
question is, how do you work at so the why is we are together, right? The how is kind of, I'm assuming, your process.
Yeah. I think the how is learning to actually connect on deeper and deeper levels. The how is getting to know each other again. If you're in a relationship and you've been watching a lot of TV and you're kind of just living side by side, it's like getting curious about each other and recognizing that we don't know, we could learn more about our partners till the day we die. And if you think that you know your partner, then I would venture to say that your relationship is likely feeling somewhat stale, right? That may not be true. For some people, it might be like, yeah, I know my partner and it feels awesome. And, that's great. But for the majority of people, it's like, oh, if we put someone in a box and we don't necessarily keep looking at, okay, what do I want? What would make this feel even more connected, hotter, more playful? If we're not looking at those things and having those conversations, then we become stagnant. It's kind of like, oh, if we're not having money conversations, then money can often become stagnant too. So I think there's a lot of overlap.
Yeah, both of those conversations are uncomfortable.
That's what I was just going to say, uncomfortable.
And they don't really happen, or there's a lot of baggage behind them with anger or frustration or snarkiness, all that stuff that can go with that. And so how do you cope with that, or how do you begin to work through that?
Good question. Yeah, I mean, I'm working on my book that's coming out in the fall called Honest Sex. And it's a lot about, okay, how do we have these honest conversations that are uncomfortable so that we can have more and better sex, right? I mean, also so that we can have
a theme there, guys, so that's what I think about. No,
so
I still 15-year-old Curtis is still first and foremost on my mind. All right. So anyway,
so I say, right, the first part is be willing to be uncomfortable. So if I stop just because I think it's going to be an uncomfortable conversation, then I don't get to have intimacy, connection, right? I don't get to get promoted and get more money, or I don't get to, have an investor invest in my company, whatever it is. Like we have to move toward those uncomfortable conversations. And then how do we navigate the discomfort right, in our own bodies and psyches. I mean, I think there's a couple different ways. One is to be connected to other people and have those people who you can be vulnerable with, and you can, admit, wow, I got a little freaked out today, or I'm spinning, or, I'm not totally on my game today. And that the more we admit some of those things, the less we're trying to hold up the world on our shoulders and have nobody see that there's, that we're not even human. And I see that in a lot, the suicide rate for men is very high. It's like 3 or 4 times higher than for women. And so a lot of men aren't having those vulnerable, uncomfortable conversations. I think because there's a lot of shame of, I'm supposed to man up, I'm supposed to have it all together.
Oh, listen, I was dating somebody. This is my freshman year in college, so I'm in love, right? And so we broke up. I can't think straight. I remember we were basketball practice, and I was like sleepwalking through practice.
Yeah.
For like 2 weeks. Finally, I started to snap out of it. The coach is like, "Welcome back, Curtis May." And so I'm feeling whatever, and I'm talking to my boys, and it's like, we broke up, da da da. It's like, listen, man up. What, you want a hug? No, it was the reverse. Look, what, you want a hug? Man up. Inward.
What you want? You want a hug? Is that what you said?
Right. Yeah. What, you want a hug? Man up. So
Aww.
that's
right. That's what you.
Well,
guys
I mean, I'm fine with that. I went to the John Shaft School of Sensitivity, so I'm
good. You're a sensitive guy.
No, I'm not sensitive. That's all.
Oh, you're not sensitive.
Yeah. So you know John Shaft is?
No,
so,
I don't know. I don't know John Shaft.
Young girl, right? So she'll know Shaft. Richard Roundtree, or you ever see Shaft with what's his name? Samuel Jackson, the new Shaft.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like that. I grew up. It was a big role model for me when Shaft came out in the early 70s. So I was like, "Was Shaft cry?" So I'm kind of emotionally attached, right?
Yeah.
So I don't show fear,
a lot of
emotion. No. I mean, my wife says that doesn't bother her because she knows I'm very loving, but my cousins call me Mr. Spock, right?
Interesting.
So, and I have people that's
right. So it doesn't mean that you're not going to do well. And I would venture to say, right, that when you integrate some of that vulnerability and some of that, hey, I don't quite have it all together, that, in your romantic relationships, you're going to build more trust and you're going to build more intimacy. And then oftentimes
you gotta let somebody know that you're
not perfect, superhuman, and that you shouldn't be, that there's, that's not wrong or bad. Right. You're human.
My competitors won't ever know that, but my wife might know, right? So, and maybe a close friend or a coach. Like
I think that the world is getting more and more. Brene Brown talks a lot about vulnerability, even in the workplace, and it doesn't mean you have to go in and cry and
right,
like fall apart,
right.
But that we can actually be more human in the workplace, I think, than ever before.
See, I'm like, would you ever see The Godfather?
Yeah.
Right. So, and the singer came in, he's like, "Godfather, he won't give me the part." And he starts crying. And he smacks him. "Be a man." Right.
I know.
So I'm kind of like that. So
which,
I need help. You might need to like get me on a couch somewhere, because I'm like that. Be a man.
Well, and here's the thing, right? If it's working for you, if you don't feel stifled by that, if you don't feel ashamed of yourself, like, there are ways that
I don't. That's the thing, so I don't have any problem with
that.
So
if it's working for you, it's not a problem.
Yeah, because
but for a lot of men I work with who are pretty sensitive and I would say like have been, identified as a nice guy.
Yeah.
And so they're often really generous and really selfless and really caring, and they have really big hearts. But they're kind of stuck in there. And so then they don't know exactly what to do with it.
So
and
you
then
get caught in the friend zone because you're so nice and you're bringing
exactly.
Listen. So I was that guy.
You were.
Yes. Okay. And then my heart was broken. I became a little more
rugged or rough.
Distant and rough around the edges. All of a sudden, you could beat them off with the flies, because all of a sudden now I'm sullen, I'm insensitive, I don't know if mysterious is the right word, but I wasn't that was more attractive. So you can't just be a pushover, right? Because there's a
Right.
little
Now
bit.
I see a kind of next level,
Okay.
which is you don't have to go from being a nice guy to being an asshole or mysterious, right? That there's a way that you can be strong and sovereign and vulnerable and tender all at the same time.
Okay, let's talk about that, because I like that. I think I'm that.
Yeah.
You know,
you seem like you have you seem like your heart is open to me.
Yeah, it is. I mean, even when I was dating, I was still nice. I just wasn't a pushover, right?
Yeah.
And
right. You can be nice without being a pushover.
Yeah, you can be pushover, because I'm a nice person,
kind or generous.
So you got to have a fundamental philosophy, I will call it, as do unto others as you have them doing to you.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was always honest. I wouldn't lie to people. I wouldn't say you were the only, if we're not, if we're dating other people, then you're gonna know that. I'm gonna tell you that, even if this is single people, guys, you can't do this. Okay. Yeah. I told people all the time, my wife doesn't let me date.
Yeah.
So this is Curtis being silly on the podcast. But but I think that you have to, in business especially, like, you have to have a certain, for lack of a better word, swag.
Yeah.
In
I think it depends. And, again, there's balance. If you take it too far, people don't trust you. If you're confident or if you believe in yourself, I think there's a way to believe in yourself without having a false arrogance, right? Yes. Like, I think of confidence as the knowing that you can roll with whatever comes your way. As opposed to, I have to know everything. I have to know how to do, X, Y, and Z. Like, I have to be masterful at certain things.
Faking it, right?
Right.
See, because one of the things I'll train people, I'll say, listen, if you're competent, which is work and study and doing the work, and, activity produces knowledge.
Nice.
Be then confident.
You're confident.
Because like you're competent.
Yeah.
That's where confidence comes from, right? Yeah. And then when you're confident, you'll make money. You'll be popular in situations with people with the opposite success, because you're confident, you're secure in yourself, and you're not tied to here's another part, is you're not tied to the outcome of interaction. Like, it is what it is, but you're not like needy. You're not tied to an outcome.
I love that, right? When you're not attached to an outcome, then you're free. Then you're way more free.
Right.
You can still have goals and intentions, and you can be present in the moment and noticing what's happening so that you can navigate some of those uncomfortable conversations. But, I've let go of, my life is going to look this way with this many kids or this partner, or, all of those things. It's like, when we hold on too tightly, which I know you talk about, the velocity
of money.
The velocity of money, right?
Keeping if we money moving. Yeah.
Of keeping it moving. If we hold on too tightly and we like, I need to, I feel afraid of letting go.
You'll feel scarce. You'll suffer from scarcity. That's why I don't like budgeting, or like, you can't scrimp your way to financial freedom, because you'll develop a long-term philosophy of what I call fear-based hoarding. So when you get to a point where you want to enjoy your money, you can't, because you're afraid to spend it.
Yeah. Right. And similarly, I think that way of, when we hold on to life too tightly and to the expectations we had, or what our parents told us was right, or what society says is right, versus, okay, what do I really want? Why do I really want it? Like we said, going back to the why, what really matters to me? Can I let myself know what matters to me instead of what would look good or what other people think, I should want?
Yeah. So you have to, one of the things I do, I don't know if you agree, I believe you've got to have, so I do it with money, but I think you have to have principles, right? Because too many people, they don't have any principles that they operate by. So it's all, how do I feel? But you can't operate just on how you feel or what feels good to me. And it like in everything, I don't care, there's, so if I'm Christian, it's like the 10 commandments. There's a rules to live your life by. So I kind of, here, thou shalt not kill. Okay. That's not really a suggestion, certain things that, do unto others, you have them do unto you. So if you have certain rules that you treat people like a basic rule, love your neighbor as thyself, right? That's a basic principle. So if you do that,
yeah,
you'll be all right.
Yeah.
Love yourself. A lot of
Like
people don't love themselves. So they don't care crap about anybody else because they're internal. They have a lot of crap, messed up stuff going on, and they're selfish and self-centered and,
yeah. Right.
Whatever.
That's the root of it all, is really, finding that love for yourself, finding that belief in yourself. I think to have better relationships, more money, all of that. It's like,
yeah, how can you love
we could,
somebody else? You don't love yourself. Like,
yeah,
I've never had that problem. Like I've always liked Curtis,
yeah.
And
Well, and the thing is, right,
yeah,
if you make a lot of money, but you don't love yourself, you will end up doing destructive things. You will end up, right. You won't feel fulfilled. You'll have that hole in your heart, like you were saying. So
right.
yeah, we've got to attack it from all angles.
Because if you get to start with the proper, Jim Rohn used to say, most people don't have a money problem, they have a philosophy problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you have to work on your philosophy, how you think, right? Your thinking determines your attitude. Your attitude determines your actions.
Yeah.
And your actions determine your results. So, and that's not just with money, that's with relationships, that's with food, that's with whatever, right? And so it's the daily decisions that you make that in the moment they don't seem bad, but if you make a series of bad decisions, your trajectory of your life is going to go on a downward slope. You're going to have a bad result, And so if you keep, dating the wrong person, then it's your fault, right? Because you're not recognizing the pattern. Or if you're, you've been divorced 3 times or whatever, there's a pattern there. You have to step back and okay, well, who am I attracting?
Yes.
As is or why didn't I see this coming? Because you could see, I could date a girl for 2 weeks, maybe 3, and I can figure out if I saw them long range in my life, like for because my mind, I'm logical. That's why it's called you Mr. Spock, and I could work stuff out into its logical conclusion. Like I just, I'm thinking about it. It's like, okay, no, right, and then next, because this is not going to work out. I see where your thought process is.
So, you can go like 5 steps ahead and kind of map it all out.
Yeah, map it out. I don't know if, I think that's weird to me. I don't know, but that but I thought like that even as a younger person. I could see that, and it's you don't need to waste like, we're because people say, I'm dating for 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, and we might as well get married. It's like, well, okay, it don't take that long to figure that out. So either do it or don't do it. If you
or like, I don't have it that you have to get married, or you do, like I don't think there's a rule. I just think you get to really consider what feels right to me. Now, if you're resisting something, or you're like, I don't want to be in a long-term relationship with this person, then right, there's probably some uncomfortable conversations to have. And
because it's only fair to them, or you're wasting their time.
Yeah. If you're not willing to get real or get honest, then usually that's where there's not that intimacy. And then you end up kind of living like ships in the night, or roommates, or whatever.
Ships that, right. I know a lot of roommates or
ships passing in the night.
Yeah, 2 ships passing in the night. Yeah. And this is fun. I never talk about this. I talk about this. I never talk about this on
the podcast.
Right. What other problems shall we solve for them today?
Oh my gosh. Well, okay. So I have to wrap up in a couple minutes because I have another call.
Okay.
Any last
well, let me ask you this. Let me put it this way. What should I have asked you that I didn't ask you?
Yeah.
That you want to make sure that you get out, and then I want you to tell them how they can, find out with you and follow you and that kind of good stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So what didn't you ask me? I think you asked great questions. I just keep going back and forth to the like sex and money, right? It's like, I just think there's so many interesting overlaps and connections that we were talking about, right? The willingness to get uncomfortable and have those conversations, especially. And I do a lot of sort of role play. Some of it's role play that I do with clients, and some of it I think of like human practice. So, we have conversations where we practice like, oh, are you paying attention to me? Are you noticing? Like, and this could be whether it's you're managing someone or you're in a romantic relationship with someone, learning how to pay attention and attune to people. is a really important skill, and I think allows for more of those opportunities to arise with sex and with money.
Oh, listening is very important. So,
Yeah.
and I think I'm pretty good at that. So I try to, all right, let me stop. And even though I want to do something else, nope, I'm trying to be, so that's, but you have to actively do that. Okay. And I think I do that. I have to ask my wife, do I do that?
That would be a great question, right? Yeah. To really, and
do you think
for
I'm present?
Anybody listening to ask your partners like, oh, do you think I'm a good listener? Or do we have like, how intimate are we? You know, I think those conversations, whether it's every year to set goals and see like, who do we want to be together? Or how do we want to impact the world together? Or what do we want to experience together? And then those moment to moment, like, oh, do you feel loved by me? Or do I feel loved by, you know, getting to have those uncomfortable conversations, or being willing to have those uncomfortable conversations creates a lot more connection and intimacy in a relationship.
That's gold right there. That we can end on that. That's gold, because I think that who knows how to do that? I don't do that. Yeah. I'm uncomfortable saying that, right? So I have to work on that, you know, because I always tell people success lies outside the comfort zone.
Yes.
So you can't
can't stay in the comfort zone.
Stay in the comfort zone. You'll never win at anything doing that.
Yeah.
So that is great. So, okay, I think we still dance around a little bit. We should just say this show is about money and sex, you know, just
money and sex,
but,
sex and money.
we're still, you know, we're still uncomfortable having this conversation, but this is fun, Shana. I thank for coming on and having me on your show.
Yeah. You're welcome.
We will, so listen, if you like this kind of stuff, or if you've got questions for her, tell them where to find you. Yeah.
So if you have questions, you know, feel free to email me, Shana at shanajamescoaching.com, and Shana is SHANA. I think probably one of the best places to go that speaks to both men and women is if you go to my website, shanajamescoaching.com/TEDx. I have a TEDx talk called What 1,000 Men's Tears Reveal About the Crisis Between Men and Women. And there's also a resource guide for men on there and one for women on there. I think the women one is like how to communicate without pushing a man away. And I think the men's one is how men lose influence with work and with women. So I highly recommend watching the TEDx talk. And, you know, if you want more, sign up for those guides. And, you know, then you'll get announcements about my podcast that Kurt was on. So come listen to that. That's Man Alive. And yeah, this was fun. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. This was fun. I just like riffing, talking about, I have other conversation other than money, y'all. I just
here, this is proof that I have other conversations, not just
I got all kind. I can go there. Wherever you talk about, we can go there. And and have fun with it, right? You got to have fun with it. So that's fun. And so that's fun. So folks, you gotta communicate with people, have fun with what you're doing. So life is too serious to take seriously. And it's not all about work. You want to be financially free so you can do what you want when you have to. But if you don't have anybody to share it with, what's the point? Yeah. So guys, thanks for, I hope you found this, what's the word?
Interesting.
Interesting. No, but intriguing.
Useful,
intriguing, useful, stimulating some thought.
Yes.
Right. And follow up. That's what we want to do here at Practical Wealth. So, you know, make money and be happy.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much.
All right, you're welcome. Thanks for coming on. And guys, go out there, live. If you like the show, share it, and then go check out Shana's show, Man Alive.
Yeah.
And we will talk to you soon. Have a great day, everybody.